Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of the Rook work in progress videos, and in this part I'm going to show you the rest of the setup, which is the base, the turret base, the legs and the feet. And then at the end we're gonna assemble the whole kit so you can get an idea of the finished model you will get as a 3D print file. So I'm starting with the hip part. The hip part is modified. It's now hollowed out a little bit. As I mentioned in the previous video, the torso connector on top here is the same size as 1/35 scale Macs have, so that's compatible, interchangeable with all the other Mac products. That means you can also put, if you wish so, one of the other Mac bodies on top of this to have a 4-legged variant. So the hip piece has these small nubs here on the side where these little cylinders go. Just like this. As always, it's all snap fit, just put together. I mean, you can glue them in place if you want to prevent them from falling off. And to the bottom of the hip piece, connect the 4 legs. Now, this is what the naked leg now looks like. It's basically the frame. In the Industrial Mechanica model kit, this part was separate parts. There wasn't really any possibility for posing, articulating the leg, so you had to glue them together. But back then we opted to go for separate parts, so you don't need that big of a resin cast for each part, and also to make it less complicated with undercuts. Industrial Mechanica kits were resin casts, casted from silicone molds, so you always have to battle the undercut issue, and that also led to the necessity to close the in-between parts. What you see here now, all this detail, the undercut, the cables hanging freely, this is only possible with 3D printing, so this is much more detailed than the original model kit. Of course, it's also much more paint work. If you enjoy painting miniatures or models in general, I guess you will have a lot of fun with that. Also, the amount of detail is one of the reasons I didn't divide this any further with articulation. So this is one piece. You will thank me later for that, because if this would all be articulated and, you know, resin loses a bit volume over time, you would constantly have to go back in and tighten up the joints again to make this able to hold upright. And for posability, you have to decide how much is really necessary. Does it make sense? Or if it's too complicated, does it just add overall complexity that can be frustrating? So I opted out of too much articulation because I think this will do the job. You have a ball joint hinge up here, you have a ball joint hinge for the feet down there, and this gives you really enough articulation, I would say. You will probably never need more. So how does it work? First of all, you connect these to the base, 4 legs, and now you have the possibility to choose, do you want to have these connected freely, so they have the full range of motion in all directions. But as I said before, resin tends to become loose a bit over time because there's always some shrinking involved, no matter the type of resin you use. Even with little shrinking, just like a little bit of loosening up could lead to that under the weight of the turret, and if you really play with it, it will get loose over time, so it will sag down, and instead of this position, you have this position. So if you want to prevent that, I added these rings to make the assembly as easy as possible, and these rings basically prevent the whole construction from movement in either side direction, so this ball joint basically becomes a hinge joint. The reason I decided to do it this way is, first of all, if you want to have a ball joint, and I mean, if the joints get loose, you can tighten them up. Just put a little bit of super glue on the ball sockets, let it dry, so it becomes nice and tight again. But over time, you cannot prevent that these parts here, the socket will expand further, so you would have to repeat this process all the time. So if you don't want to do this all the time, you want just to have a single hinge joint, so the legs hold up and just be able to rotate sideways, then that's a good solution for this. We don't have any complicated construction to create a hinge joint. For that you would need like a connector or something, would be much more complicated. So the ball joint and this stabilizer ring, that's the easiest solution, so you can choose whichever you like. It's basically the best of both worlds. Alright, so with this attached, we move on. You have all the armor parts. Gonna quickly sort them out. We start here on top with the top armor part. It's all snap fit. Should be really easy for you to apply those. goes together really, really easy. Just snap it in. This big top part here, you can slide in over the pistons in the front, the smaller pistons, and then just pull it to the back. This consists of two parts. You can open and close this up, a little bit of detail. Yep. And finally we have the ankle armor. It goes in just like this. Part is the feet, of course. So this is a modified version of the original foot. In the original model kit, the back toes were more in the front, but this leads to them tipping to the back. You would have to glue them. It was not the best design, to be honest. So I changed that and made it more stable by putting these toes in the back. But they snap in here, just like this, and then you're good to go. And you have a finished leg. The ball joint connection, of course, I use the same diameter as the 135 scale Mac frame has. So you could, if you want to, just take the 135 scale Mac feet and put them there. They also fit nicely. And to add more customization options and more variation, I also created specifically for this model kit some new feet versions. So here you have another solid foot you can use. And there's another variant with wheels. So in case you want to have a wheeled foot, this is a nice option. Think of like a Tachikoma style Mac. This uses the same wheel as the 135 scale Mac frame, of course, so it's interchangeable. And you can also use these for your 135 scale Macs. So you have even more options with the other kits if you have them. So I hope that brings some fun and excitement to the hobby. I'm gonna quickly assemble the rest of the legs and then we put the whole piece together. Okay, so here we are with the fully assembled lower part of the Rook. All the legs and armor have been put on, all the pieces connected to the hip. And now the next thing is to connect the turret. And to cover this up, I've printed a little cover. This is printed with Resin F69 rubber-like resin. This is really nice because it supports all the movement you have on the ball joint, just compresses and is flexible. Really nice. If you haven't tried F69 yet, I can highly recommend it for soft and rubber parts. It's the best rubbery resin I've had so far. This just goes on here, and now comes the turret. Let me just put this into place. It's all very tight in the beginning, so you have to use some force, but it'll loosen up a little bit later on, so that's all fine. And here we have it. Quickly need to adjust the camera a little bit. It's quite the beast. So this is the finished Rook. I'm quickly gonna see if I can find a Mac to compare it to. Let's take the construction Mac, put it here. And as you can see, the Rook is quite massive. So I hope you enjoyed these work of progress videos. If you want to buy the Rook 3D printable toy model kit, you can do so. There's a link below in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video series. If you did so, please leave a like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.